Hello, my name is Wakasa, and today we'll be talking about how Sagittarius is the astrological surgeon. I would like to start off by saying I am not the most familiar with Sagittarius symbolism. I am a Cancer stellium, and I'm the most familiar with water sign symbolism. However, I'm currently working on a project, and mutual signs kept showing up, so it got me wondering how Sagittarius fits into all of this. So I started doing the research, and I came across information that I'm already familiar with. But what surprised me is that Scorpio, a water sign, kept showing up. So the compare and contrast of Scorpio has been helping me better understand Sagittarius. So the main thing that makes Scorpio and Sagittarius very similar is their symbols. The Scorpio symbol has an arrow, same as Sagittarius. However, the arrow in Scorpio is meant to symbolize the tail or the spike of a scorpion, whereas the arrow in Sagittarius is meant to actually symbolize an arrow because the symbolic animal of Sagittarius is a centaur, the mythological animal that has the torso of a human being, torso up of a human being, and then a horse body. And they're stereotypically known as archers, so a bow and arrow. However, there are some depictions of Sagittarius that also has a scorpion tail. So it makes me wonder if in some cultures, Scorpio and Sagittarius were the same constellation, though there's reasons for me not to believe that based on other things that I've heard about Scorpio. But anyways, as someone who knows a lot about Scorpio symbolism, I know about how it's like tied to shadow work and self-improvement. And I was surprised that for Sagittarius as well, that was being brought up, but they couldn't be worlds apart. And that's where they really differentiate, because in Scorpio, their self-improvement or their shadow work is like a death and rebirth of self, like a complete demolish of self so that you can rebuild yourself into a completely new person. That contrasts with Sagittarius, where it is more meticulous or methodical about observing of what about self is working and is good and keeping that, and then targeting the part of self that isn't working. So it's not like a complete demolition of self to rebuild. It's just like a target of the part that isn't working, but everything else can stay. This connects back to the interpretations of some centaurs having a scorpion tail, because in some depictions, it is a centaur pointing back at its tail. So it's like the human torso is good, the horse body is good, but something about that scorpion tail needs to be targeted. Something about that scorpion tail needs to be improved. And I would say like the scorpion tail does connect back to the shadow work or shadow self, and to target and to look it dead in the eyes and make sure to self-improve. As a Cancer stellium, it's really funny because I didn't realize that's what I was doing when I was doing this, but I also have like home analogies to better understand it. So I said demolition of self. I almost think of like the tower and how it's like everything is falling apart. Like you literally bulldoze the whole house, in comparison to Sagittarius. Wait, that the complete demolition of self, that's Scorpio. But then in comparison to Sagittarius, where it's like home renovation, you don't demolish your whole house to renovate a kitchen. You don't demolish the whole house to renovate a bathroom. You just target those areas. But yes, like I said, Sagittarius is a centaur, and a popular centaur in Greek mythology is Chiron, the wounded healer. So I'm finally getting to my point. Though I do think Chiron is more closely connected to the concept of making elixirs and potions to heal, I would say that it makes sense that I'm trying to tie it to surgeon, first off, because healer equals doctor and a doctor is a surgeon, or a surgeon is a doctor. Maybe it's like a rectangle square type of situation. I don't know. But then also the fact that I brought up the fact that centaurs are known as archers. And I think the concept of an archer having to be methodical and precise to make sure to hit the bullseye mirrors well with the concept of a surgeon making sure to make the proper cuts to preserve life. But yeah, healer equals doctor equals surgeon. Archer, surgeon, cutting and right. But anyways, another thing that makes Sagittarius connect to doctors is the concept of Sagittarius being tied to higher learning. To become a doctor, you have to get your bachelor's, your master's, and then your doctorates. And even after you get your doctorates, you go to residency, you go to fellowship. And even after you're an established doctor, you are doing continual learning for the rest of your practice or career, because the art of medicine is an art, is ever changing, ever learning, ever expanding. And Sagittarius is connected to Jupiter and it's expanding. And there's always going to be a new and better way to preserve and take care of life. Then the last part that I think connects to doctoral or like surgeon imagery in Sagittarius is philosophy, because in a lot of ways, I see surgery as a dark art. I decided to watch The Pit because there was a guy with omega eyes and I had to see what was going on. And I got tricked into watching some really barbaric, I'm sorry, but really off and wheezy scenes, because they're literally cutting into body parts. And this connects to one of the affirmations that is connected to Sagittarius, which is I see. To see a human body in such a way is crazy. You're not supposed to perceive all of that thing. You're not supposed to perceive every aspect of a human body. There are parts of my body that I hope to God I never see. I'm not supposed to see my stomach, not supposed to see my liver, my kidney, none of that. My heart is also not supposed to see the outside world. And yet, to be a surgeon, you are constantly taxed with seeing parts of a human body that you're not really supposed to see. Surgery also ties to philosophy, though philosophy is tied to everything, but specifically when it comes to surgery or like medicine, a lot of our medical advancements have come off the backs of people being targeted, minority groups being experimented on. Like, I think the modern C-section today came off the backs of enslaved women being experimented on. So in a lot of ways, to practice medicine is to also grapple with the concept of there were a lot of bad things that came about for us to be able to do this good. And though I do believe that there are things that are objective bads and there are things that are objective goods, in a lot of ways, down the line, you can find yourself having an opposite effect, or not an opposite effect, but experiencing positives out of something that was negative, or experiencing negatives out of something that is positive, and knowing how to grapple with the balance of the fact that good can come out of bad, bad can come out of good. Yeah, so the philosophy. And then also, I said I see in the perception, like perceiving everything at different moral perceptions. And then I would also say that this sort of connects right back to Scorpio, where I said that Scorpio is connected to death. And I would say Sagittarius contrasts with that, with the concept of hospital, because it is like, have you ever smelled a hospital? It's a very eerie, icky smell, but it's a better smell than I would assume death. Never seen a dead body, right? But I would assume it's a better smell than death because it's a healing body. And it is also very vulnerable and intimate, which compares sort of kind of to Scorpio. But specifically, I wanted to say that the concept of when you're sick, like when you have a part of your body that is sick and you make sure to actually target and heal it, you evade death. And to let your whole body go because of one part of your body, to like let your whole body be destroyed, to let your whole body die because of one aspect of your body is not something that you can survive physically. Metaphysically, maybe. Like, metaphysically, maybe you can let everything fall apart for you to rebuild it, but it would be the most it would be the least taxing to be more methodical about everything here is working. I don't have to destroy this to fix this. And in a lot of ways, it's like maybe the better way to do shadow work is to go about it in a more Sagittarius way, instead in comparison to Scorpio, where it's just like you don't throw the baby out with the bath water. My accent is off. But yeah. Anyways, I also wanted to say that affirmation I see also sort of ties to the concept of, I see, when you learn something new. And I've been joking this whole time about, like, every time I meet a Sagittarius, I'm just like, so you're a know-it-all. You just think you know everything. I see. You know everything, huh? Right. But anyways, if you're a Sagittarius and I've ever told you you should be a surgeon, this is why. Thank you so much for watching.